Well, I'd like to begin my sermon this morning with a little bit of congregational participation. Now, the first service played along, so that means you all must too. What I want to ask you to do is answer the following questions by a raise of hands, all right? So, how many of you have ever been sad in your life? Sad. Yeah, sorry, the cold. How many of you have ever been happy? How many of you have ever said something that maybe hurt someone? I know I have. How many of you have ever been overjoyed with something that has happened to you? And how many of you have ever been angry? All those hands go up. Yep, it's just as I thought. You see, I'm happy to report that by our show of hands, we have proven that we are all human, right? You see, the reality of our humanness is that there are times when no matter how hard we try, we cannot seem to control the feelings and the emotions that come bubbling up inside of us. And sometimes we can't even seem to control the things that happen based on those emotions. There are times when we're not even sure where they're coming from. And so the challenge becomes what we do with them. This morning, we begin a sermon series on the epistles, or the letters of the New Testament. These letters were written to share guidance, correction, and advice with both individuals and communities who had come to follow Jesus Christ. They were written to help people understand how they should live and act towards others as people of faith. Now, when Bryn approached me to see if I would be game to participate in this sermon series, my initial response was, sure, what do you want me to preach about, right? And when she told me that it was up to me, that I could pick anything that I felt called to preach about, the task became a little bit more daunting. You see, I appreciate the letters of the New Testament so much because I am a person who really likes to-do lists and things that I can check off and really likes to understand what the do's and don'ts are of life. I definitely appreciate the guidance that's within the letters, but there is so much there. All I could think was, where do I begin? And so I started to reread some of the letters again, and I got a pretty strong feeling about this passage from Ephesians. Now, the challenge of reading the letters of the New Testament is to figure out what they're saying to us today. When it was originally written, the letter to the Ephesians celebrated the life of the church, which then was a very unique and new community established by God through the work of Jesus Christ. This letter spoke to that new community about reconciliation to God through Christ's death, which had broken the power of evil and separation and brought both Jewish folks and non-Jewish folks alike into community with one another. It stressed unity in the church, love as imitation of God, and separation from impurity. It spoke of putting on the armor of God, exploring the idea that the life of faith was in conflict with evil. Now, I don't claim that these messages are not important or pertinent today, because surely they are. But we have been worshiping in this place as a community for over 250 years. And the letters have been read in this place for over 250 years. So what does it say to us today in the center of Brookfield in 2008? Well, as I looked at the listing of numerous sermons that have already been preached on this topic, the sermon titles were something along these lines: Following God's Example, A Lifestyle That Honors God, God's Guide to Grateful Living, right? The Pursuit of Unity, A Conspiracy of Kindness, Walking in Love, right? All of these great titles. And what do I pick? Righteous Reality, right? What is that all about? And the reason why I picked that is because when I read this passage, the first thing that stuck out to me was that one verse: Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Yes, all of the other pieces of it, where many sermon titles have come from, are just as, if not more, important but yet my mind dwelled on those words. Be angry, but do not sin. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. I dwelled on those words because they spoke to me of the reality of who we are as human beings in 2008. Now, I've been to a few bridal showers throughout the years, including my own, and inevitably there's some kind of game or an activity of some sort where people are asked to give the bride-to-be suggestions and advice about how it is that she's supposed to enter into marriage, right? And I have not been to a bridal shower yet where someone has not said, do not go to bed angry, right? And here we have it in the Bible, the root of that saying, do not go to bed angry. And I have sometimes wished, for both mine and poor Ryan's sake, that I could uphold that advice. So as I've been thinking about this passage the past few weeks, I have come to believe that it calls us to a sense of righteous reality. The author of the letter, whom some have guessed to be the Apostle Paul and others have said was one of his followers, does not ask us to shed our humanity because we are followers of Jesus Christ. He did not write, do not be angry, only feel love and emotions that can be described with floating hearts and those cartoony singing birds outside your windows, right? Instead, the author recognized the reality of who it is that we are as human beings. I can't stop myself from feeling angry at times, whether it is for reasons of real injustice or simply because someone has cut me off on the highway on my way here to work in the morning. No more than I can ask all of you to not be angry or to not feel certain emotions. The question becomes not about what we are and are not allowed to feel as human beings, living in a sometimes confusing world, which ours surely is, but rather what it is that we are supposed to do with those emotions. And that is where the rest of the passage comes into play today. But do not sin, the passage continues. So there it is. It speaks of us to reality, no doubt. Yes, it's reality that we will be angry and tempted to gossip or say something that might hurt someone else. It is reality that we may want to cut corners to get ahead or forget about our brothers and sisters who are in need in our world around us. However, if we look at the example of God in Jesus Christ, we realize that we have a choice. As much as this passage gives us a list of behaviors that we should follow and ways that we should live, I believe our reality shows us that this passage tells us we have a choice to make each and every day of our lives as Christian people in this world. We have a choice not to let the sun go down on our anger, but rather to reconcile with those in our lives who need our forgiveness or whose forgiveness we are in need of. We have a choice to say words that encourage and build others up instead of tearing other people down. We have a choice to tear communities apart by dwelling on what is different or seems irreconcilable between us. Or we can choose to listen to one another and treat one another with love and respect in a time in our history when it seems that everyone has an opinion on what is going on in our nation, our world, and sometimes our own families. In his book, When God Whispers Your Name, Christian writer Max Lucado shares the following words in his reflection entitled The Choice.